Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea's commander-in-chief warns that should North Korea use nuclear weapons, the regime will come to an end. President Yoon's remarks come during the biggest Armed Forces Day celebration in a decade. Senior diplomats of South Korea, Japan, and China during their talks today in Seoul agreed to resume the Trilateral summit of their leaders that hasn't been held in nearly 4 years at their earliest convenience. With the Asian Games getting into full swing in Hangzhou on the third day, South Korea continues to win more medals, including another gold in Taekwondo. So far, South Korea sits second in the overall medal race. Good evening, it's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with a warning coming from South Korea's commander-in-chief in light of the 75th Armed Forces Day. President Yoon says if North Korea decides to use nuclear weapons, South Korea and the U.S. together will end the regime, as he also called for a strong military. Our presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young takes us to the military parade from this afternoon.
South Korea and the United States will end the North Korean regime if the reclusive leadership uses its nuclear weapons. That's according to President Yoon attending the country's largest Armed Forces Day celebration to be held in a decade, which showcased South Korea's latest combat power in an unprecedented public parade in Seoul. As the North's nuclear program continues to pose an existential threat to the South and a challenge to world peace, Yoon said Seoul will immediately retaliate against any provocations from Pyongyang, noting that the country was swiftly ramping up its response, including its three-axis kill-chain preemptive strike system, the Korean-era missile defense, and the Korea Massive Punishment and Retaliation Plan. In a nod to some 300 US troops participating in the parade, the South Korean leader noted their bilateral security alliance is now nuclear-based, following the creation of their nuclear consultative group. He said the two sides will establish a unified response system that combines Washington's nuclear assets and Seoul's conventional assets, as they also strengthen joint drills and expand cooperation in the outer space and cyber domains. In that regard, Yoon warned that North Korea's use of nuclear weapons would trigger an overwhelming response from the ROK-US alliance, leading to the regime's downfall, adding that nuclear weapons would never guarantee the North's security. He also noted that the North Korean regime's obsession with its nuclear program only adds to the suffering of its citizens, whose human rights are compromised for weapons development.
정부는 굳건한 한미 동맹을 바탕으로 한미일 안보 협력을 더욱 강화하고 나아가 우방국들과 긴밀히 연대하여 강력한 안보 태세를 확립해 나갈 것입니다.
As Seoul widens its scope of security interests beyond the Korean peninsula, Yoon vowed to double government support for the defense industry, raising the need to promptly innovate and adopt cutting-edge technology for future battlefields, including space, cyber, and electromagnetic weaponry. Yoon further expressed his respect and gratitude to service members and their families throughout the decades, pledging greater support and benefits.
대한민국 국군은 건군 이래 지난 75년 동안 자유민주주의 대한민국 수호의 최후 보루로서 국가방위의 막중한 책임을 지고 맡은 바 사명을 다해왔습니다. 6.25 전쟁 당시 자유세계의 수많은 젊은이들이 대한민국의 자유를 지키기 위해 달려왔다면 이제는 우리 젊은이들이 세계 곳곳의 자유와 평화를 지키기 위해 파견되어 있습니다.
Marching across the streets of central Seoul, Yoon became the first leader in Korean history to take part in a street parade with members of the public and the military. The leader requested public interest and support in the armed forces, saying history has shown how only a strong military can guarantee true peace. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The military parade held in central Seoul was the largest Armed Forces Day celebration in a decade. On display were the country's latest and most cutting-edge military weapons, ranging from the K2 battle tank to a homegrown long-range surface-to-air missile. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung brings us highlights.
South Korea on Tuesday held a large-scale military parade on the streets of Seoul for the first time in 10 years to commemorate the 75th anniversary of Armed Forces Day. It was held in the main commercial and business district in Gwanghwamun. Over 4,600 troops participated, with some 170 pieces of military equipment on display up close for the public for the very first time. Under the theme, A Strong Military, Robust Security, and Peace Through Strength, the Grand Parade was aimed at showing off the full might of South Korea's military while sending a strong message to the enemy. It's the first time for the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps to showcase their assets to the public in central Seoul at the same time. Key players leading the parade were South Korea's infantry fighting vehicle, the K-21, the country's main battle tank, the K2 Black Panther, and the K-9 self-propelled howitzer. At the heart of the parade was South Korea's three-axis system, which ties together three military concepts that counter North Korea's growing nuclear and missile threats. One of the key weapons mobilized to highlight the system was the country's homegrown long-range surface-to-air missile, designed to shoot down North Korea's ballistic missiles. The country's domestically developed ballistic missile, the Hyunmoo, was also revealed to the public for the very first time. The missile is known to have the ability to strike all areas of North Korea with very high precision. Surveillance drones were also deployed, and the Navy's cutting-edge Aegis destroyer, Cheongjo the Great, took part through augmented reality. The landmark parade was, for the first time ever, joined by some 300 U.S. combat troops based in the country. Their participation signified the 70th anniversary of the Seoul and Washington alliance. The last time a street parade was held on Armed Forces Day was in 2013. It had been held every 5 years, but the parade had been scaled down in 2018 in consideration of inter-Korean relations. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The long-stalled Trilateral summit between the leaders of South Korea, Japan, and China could take place as senior diplomats of the three countries agreed to resume it at their earliest convenience. For this, they also agreed to hold a meeting between their foreign ministers first, possibly in November. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji reports.
Senior diplomats from South Korea, Japan, and China held talks in Seoul on Tuesday to discuss ways to resume holding trilateral summits between their leaders. This comes as South Korea, the chair of the meeting, is seeking to hold such a summit by the end of this year. Deputy Foreign Minister Chung Byung-won sat down for talks with Japan's Senior Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs, Takehiro Funakoshi, and China's Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dong Lung. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson explained that Tuesday's meeting signals that the three countries have managed to take their first step in resuming cooperation between them that has been stalled for the past 4 years.
Through the meeting this morning, the three countries agreed to hold a trilateral summit at their earliest convenience. Also, to prepare for the summit, they decided to hold a meeting between their foreign ministers as soon as possible.
The three countries are reportedly discussing ways to hold a meeting between their foreign ministers in November in Busan. There, they will discuss specific details of the potential summit, which was last held in December 2019. A meeting hasn't been held since then, amid the COVID-19 pandemic and strained relations between Seoul and Tokyo, due to diplomatic and trade disputes, triggered by historic issues that date back to Japan's colonial occupation of Korea before and during World War II. Separately, a Japanese media network reported that during Tuesday's high-level talks, Seoul expressed the hope of holding the trilateral summit in December. Citing an unnamed South Korean official, JNN specifically said the meeting will take place in Seoul sometime after December 18th. Over in the U.S., when asked about the possible trilateral summit, the White House said it respects the ability of countries to make their own sovereign decisions in the best interest of their people, just as the U.S. responsibly manages its relationship with China and other partners and allies. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
In the U.S., Washington's top diplomat has applauded the advances in the alliance between South Korea and the U.S. over the past 70 years, adding that their initial interest in security has expanded into a partnership in all aspects. At the same time, Blinken warned against growing military cooperation between Moscow and Pyongyang. Lee Seung-jae covers his remarks.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has once again highlighted the ironclad alliance between South Korea and the U.S. Speaking during the 8th Annual South Korea-U.S. Strategic Forum, co-hosted by the Center for Strategic and International Studies and the Korea Foundation on Monday in Washington, Blinken analyzed that the allies have been strengthening all aspects of their partnership, including security, trade, and economic dimensions. The top U.S. diplomat also noted that South Korea and the U.S. will soon celebrate 70 years since the signing of a mutual defense treaty, and that such cooperation has helped the alliance to grow even more in the spirit of 같이 갑시다, or let's go together.
Ever since, our alliance has been fortified by our enduring cooperation, by the shared spirit of 같이 갑시다. 70 years of relationship that has grown from a key security alliance into a vital global partnership.
He also took time to mention the enhanced trilateral cooperation with Japan, including the Camp David summit between the leaders of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. Meanwhile, Blinken also discussed the threats posed by a potential North Korea-Russia military cooperation. He stressed that North Korea's threats to broader security were demonstrated clearly by Kim Jong-un's visit to Russia this month. He added that Pyongyang is looking to strengthen and advance its own missile programs by working hand-in-hand with Russia and threatening global peace and security. Monday's forum was held to discuss the 70th anniversary of the signing of the Mutual Defense Treaty between South Korea and the United States on October 1st and the alliance's future over the next 7 decades. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
At the White House this past Monday, U.S. President Joe Biden hosted the leaders and representatives of 18 Pacific Island nations. And by working with the U.S. Congress, he also pledges for a new funding to strengthen its engagement with the region amid concerns over China's influence. Yoon reports.
The White House summit hosted by President Joe Biden, where he met with Pacific Island leaders on Monday, was the second meeting of its kind in just over a year. The forum is seen as a part of a larger Biden administration effort to deepen ties with the region, where officials say Beijing is hopeful of protecting military power. Before welcoming the 18 leaders and representatives, Biden announced U.S. diplomatic recognition of 2 more Pacific Island nations, the Cook Islands and Niue, highlighting that recognizing them as sovereign and independent states would enable expansion for a stronger partnership. During the welcoming ceremony, Biden emphasized that the U.S. is committed to ensuring a free, open, prosperous, and secure Indo-Pacific region. He also pledged to work with U.S. Congress to provide $200 million more in funding for the region. The funds would be used for projects aimed at resolving issues, including climate change, economic growth, public health, and countering illegal fishing. However, Washington appears to have made no progress over offers of substantial infrastructure funding to the Solomon Islands, whose prime minister has deepened ties with China and did not attend the summit. Also absent was the newly appointed Prime Minister of Vanuatu, who took power just 2 weeks ago following a no-confidence vote against his predecessor for actions including signing a security pact with U.S. ally Australia. China signed a policing agreement with Vanuatu just last month. Speaking at the summit, President Biden invoked America's World War II campaign against Japan in the region and, without naming China, implied that a battle of another kind was now underway. He added that a great deal of history will be written across the Pacific over the coming years, with partnership key to writing that history together. Ian-jin, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol's diplomatic activities will stretch to the end of the year, with 2 state visits announced for November and December. On Tuesday, the top office announced President Yoon and First Lady Kim Joonhee will make a state visit to the United Kingdom in November upon the invitation of King Charles III. The visit marks the 140th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Korea and the UK and will be Yoon's first trip there since the King's coronation. The South Korean leader's previous visit to London was in September last year for the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II. And in December, the first couple had been invited for a state visit to the Netherlands by King Willem-Alexander. Since the 2 countries forming diplomatic ties in 1961, this is the first state visit for a South Korean leader. Third-term lawmaker Hong Ik-pyo has been elected new floor leader of the main opposition Democratic Party at the National Assembly. The election took place this afternoon and pitted two other three-term lawmakers, Kim Min-seok and Nam In-sun, against Hong. After a runoff between Nam and Hong, the latter was elected. In an accepted speech, he promised to listen to each party member and to manage matters transparently. The ruling People Power Party released a statement congratulating Hong and expressing anticipation that he'll unite the factional DP as soon as possible. The election came after former floor leader Park Kwang-won resigned last week following the National Assembly passing a motion seeking to arrest party leader Lee Jae-myung. South Korea continues to capture historic wins in Hangzhou on the third day of the Asian Games. The day's achievement includes another gold in its home sport, Taekwondo, this time by Park Hye-jin. Our Lee Si-hoo brings us up to speed on where South Korea is standing.
On day 3 of the 2023 Asian Games, South Korea added another gold in its home sport, Taekwondo. 26-year-old Park Hye-jin won the women's 53 kilograms title against Lin Wei-chun of Chinese Taipei on Tuesday evening with a round score of 2-1. This is the second gold by South Korea in the Taekwondo's Gyeorugi event following Chang Jun's win in the men's 58 kilograms competition the day before. The nation's men's shooting team also captured gold in the 10 meters running target mixed run event. The team, consisting of Chung Yoo-jin, Ha Kwang-chul, and Kwak Yong-bin, totaled a score of 1,116, 5 points higher than Kazakhstan that won silver. The event requires shooting correctly at moving targets of varying speed. Kim Ha-yoon secured gold in women's judo in the 78-kilogram category, beating China's Xu Xuyen just 43 seconds into the match. There were silvers won by Lee Yong-moon in the men's Nangun final in Wushu and by the women's team in the cycling track sprint event. Men's rugby also won silver after losing 14-7 to Hong Kong in the final. It's the first silver in the event in 17 years. As of 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, South Korea is ranked second behind China with 13 gold, 13 silver, and 18 bronze medals. That's 44 medals in total. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
And this just in, one bronze medal was added in the women's swimming 200 meters by Yoonji. Now let's take a look at the medal rankings. South Korea will offer free COVID-19 vaccinations starting next month. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency announced on Tuesday that the vaccination campaign will begin with high-risk groups, including individuals aged 65 and older, starting on October 19th. Appointments for these groups start today. For everyone else, vaccinations will commence on November 1st, and pre-registration will be available from October 18th. The health authorities are recommending that all individuals receive booster vaccinations alongside their annual flu shots. South Korea's household and corporate debt rose to all-time highs in the second quarter of the year. According to a report from the Bank of Korea, compared to the previous quarter, household debt rose by 0.2 percentage points, while corporate debt increased by 1.1 percentage points. Private debt altogether is nearly 2.3 times the country's GDP. The central bank attributed the rise to an increase in property prices and household borrowing while cautioning against a cutback in spending and investment. It added that policies to combat household borrowing will be vital amid financial instability. There is a Western-style royal guest house from the Korean Empire inside Deoksugung Palace in Seoul called the Dondeokjeon Hall. This historic two-story building is open to the public after 100 years, having been rebuilt in its original shape. Our Yoonhee takes us there.
The doors to Dondeokjeon Hall, the state guest house of the Korean Empire, have been reopened to the public after around a century. Dondeokjeon Hall within the grounds of Deoksugung Palace was built from 1902 to 1903 in a Western style to serve as a commemorative venue for celebrating King, later Emperor, Gojong's 40th year on the throne. It was later used for diplomatic exchanges and as a guest house to demonstrate Korea's determination to protect its sovereignty and self-designated status as a modern country on a par with Western powers. Dondeokjeon is reported to have fallen into disuse in the 1920s and was destroyed during the Japanese colonial era. In the first floor's permanent exhibition hall, immersive videos depict historical events like the celebrations for the 40th year of Emperor Gojong's reign. The reconstructed hall officially opened to the public on September 26th, featuring a special exhibition room on the first floor and a detailed exhibition on the second floor. The Cultural Heritage Administration completed reconstruction approximately 6 years after initial excavations on the site began in 2017.
I think the building was constructed very beautifully. I heard the architecture was influenced by the popular style in Paris, France, and I thought the reconstruction was done remarkably well.
The exhibition has a space that explores 100 years of memories and dreams for the next 100 years, and artifacts that provide a glimpse into Dondeokjeon Hall's history. Visitors can also see the Seoul Jingwansa 태극기, which is praised for its vivid expression of Korea's determination for independence from Japan's colonial rule. This superimposes the blue section of the central part of Korea's national flag and its 4 trigrams on top of the central red part of the flag of Japan. The exhibition, consisting of 5 sections, introduces the process of establishing diplomatic relations with various countries such as the United States, Germany, Great Britain, and Denmark, after signing an international treaty with Japan in 1876. The exhibition also sheds light on the lives and activities of various diplomats. On the second floor, visitors can enter an archive room designed with the motif of Western salons of the early 20th century. Deoksugung Palace officials say that the exhibition's purpose is to reflect on the value of modern diplomacy by the Korean Empire, and Dondeokjeon Hall will continue to be a space that maximizes its utility as a cultural heritage. Yoonhee, Arirang News.
Autumn showers will be continuing on for tomorrow. The East Coast will see 20 to 70 millimeters. In the regions of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-buk-do provinces, we'll see up to 40. The Seoul metropolitan area and Chungcheong-do provinces can expect 5 to 20. Showers will start to taper off late tomorrow morning. Pleasant conditions are forecast for this upcoming Chuseok holiday. Mostly clear skies are expected for the 6-day holiday with breezy temperatures. On the actual day of Chuseok on Friday, though, skies will be overcast at times, but it will still be possible to see the full moon through the clouds. Tomorrow, Seoul and Gyeongju will be starting off at 20 degrees. Highs in Seoul will get up to 25 degrees, Daejeon 26. Gyeongju and Busan will be topping out at 28 degrees. Temperatures will be on a cooling trend from this point on. On Sunday, Gangwon-do province will see brief showers. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for tonight's newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the most up-to-date news. Good night.